Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where we have a lot to talk about, as always. But I want to start with something that's been bothering me for weeks now. It's a new trend in Hollywood, and I hate it. All right, so these days, you might have noticed that the trades, and it's trickling down to everywhere, they're putting the global box office opening weekend numbers out there instead of the domestic. Now, I'm sure some of you love this. You want to see box office reporting move more into the global space. I mean, hey, it's the worldwide box office that decides if a movie makes money or not, and the entertainment business is more global than ever. But that's not why the trades are doing it. They're doing it to put out bigger numbers and make their movies look better, because 144 looks a heck of a lot better than 55.6, which is the actual domestic opening. Now, let me explain the two reasons that you can't do this. Reason number one, there are no charts for global openings. You starting to see where they're coming from here? There's no real track records. So it's very hard to tell how this compares to other movies' global openings and to get a feel at a glance at how the movie has debuted. 144 throws you off. You're like, oh, it's over the century mark. And then you're like, wait a minute, that's the worldwide. Then reason number two, movies do not all open at the same in the same territories worldwide. Now, to be fair, F1 it actually has opened everywhere it's going to open. But that, therefore, gives it an unfair advantage over films that might have a slower rollout. So those films might end up doing better in the long run, but when you look at the opening weekend, oh my goodness, F1 will look like it had done better. So that's why they have not done this. But they're desperate. So that's why they're switching to the global numbers. If we want to switch to global debut numbers over domestic for opening weekends, then we need to have some rules and we need some transparency. I'm talking charts. I'm talking an at-a-glance number to be able to tell the percentage of the marketplace a movie is opened. You know, you'd have to say 144 with 100% of the global marketplace in play. Something like that. And it just becomes too much. This is a ploy to take the meaning out of box office numbers, to just throw big numbers out there to try and impress the industry, the media, and the general audience. But don't worry, I gotcha. I'll tell you the truth. And we're about to have a very interesting discussion, as we always do. We have a good time, don't we? All right, so yes, Apple Films finally got a first place finish. Wave that checkered flag, buddy. At the box office. But Universal's M3GAN 2.0, not a well-received upgrade. We'll see if they can do a patch job on that franchise, if they even bother. And Jurassic World Rebirth, right around the corner, hitting theaters on Wednesday for the 4th of July holiday here in the United States. But it's already getting hit from both sides. Poo, poo, poo. I'm talking on this side, you've got F1. Amazing audience scores, and it's holding on to its IMAX screens. Oh, it might have tremendous staying power. And then over here, you've got super early Superman screenings that are already, which are already starting to get the buzz going, which I think shows a real danger of getting people to totally look past Jurassic World Rebirth to Superman. All right, now on that note, I've got lots of videos coming up for these movies, so I hope you'll subscribe. Intense Superman coverage. I've already started, so I hope you'll subscribe so you don't miss any videos. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the 2025 blockbuster. It has opened way under the century mark, domestic, but in today's marketplace, Hollywood will take it. It has amazing audience scores, but for some reason, it still can't get people to go and see it in the theater. At least not yet. We'll see. F1 just started. And it's heavily reliant on premium screens. Sure enough, F1 did 58% of its box office from premium screens, 25% alone from IMAX. With some, there's a line to see this movie in IMAX if you want to see it on a proper IMAX screen. I know people who aren't going to see it until this coming week and weekend because they couldn't get into AMC Lincoln Square IMAX. Build more proper IMAX screens. And it's saddled with a ridiculously big budget that it has almost no hope of recouping, at least theatrically. In fact, F1 opened lower than Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, a movie that also can't hope to recoup its own expenses. You know, Both Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt are trying to recapture that Top Gun Maverick magic, but neither one has been able to come close. Not Cruise himself, which must be really driving him crazy, nor Pitt, who has almost all the same creative people working on F1. It's almost in many ways a direct copy. It's great. Which just goes to show that for all the formulas and patterns that Hollywood pays attention to, at the end of the day, the business is still a gamble. And with this roll of the dice, F1 has actually opened closer to Sinners and Final Destination Bloodlines, two movies that were significantly less expensive to make, which is called minimizing risk. But, sometimes you want to put all that money, and I said in my review that F1 feels like all the money's up on screen. But you got to get that money back somehow, right? You can't tell your loan shark you spent that money well, so maybe you don't have to pay it back. I had such a good time. I feel we're even. Okay, but speaking of Sinners, another premium movie-going experience with fantastic audience scores, Warner Brothers is hoping, the distributor of both movies, partnering here on this one with Apple, that this one will also leg out. So F1's second weekend drop is going to be something crucial to keep an eye on. And it's positioned quite well, holding on to its IMAX screens, going into a super long holiday weekend. For many, not just this upcoming weekend, but the whole frickin' week, many people are taking off. And Jurassic World Rebirth, well, let's see if it materializes. Let's see what that Rotten Tomato score is going to be when the review embargo lifts tomorrow, Monday, at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Apple says the movie cost just $200 million to make, but Hollywood is whispering that it was actually closer to $300. So we'll split the difference, King Solomon style. $250, we'll say. We'll put it at $250, which means it needs $625 to break even. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, which again opened bigger than F1, is only at $548. World War Z, Pitt's most successful movie to date, also opened bigger, right where Mission Impossible Final Reckoning opened, actually, interesting enough. And what do you know? It ended about the same as well. That's why Hollywood, for all the gambling, does pay attention to formulas and patterns. Gambling isn't just close your eyes and do the gamble. There's patterns and formulas there as well. But luck and timing also are a factor. Thankfully, though, for F1, speaking of luck for this movie, Apple Films has set the bar real low. Real low. Whoo! The bottom. Okay? Do original movies made by streaming services belong in theaters first, right? Or should they go straight to the streaming service? Netflix has long found itself at the heart of this debate. They don't want to tick off their subscribers, so they want to give them the content right away. But for some movies, people are like, come on, it's gotta go theatrical. I'm talking Glass Onion and the upcoming Frankenstein and Narnia movies. I really think Frankenstein should be in theaters. While Amazon, and now Amazon MGM, has tried to make real headway in the theatrical space. They did very well in the awards space, but now they're trying to get into the commercial space. They have yet to produce a blockbuster, but then, of course, they just plunked down a billy for James Bond. That's nothing. Jeff Bezos just dropped $50 million on his wedding. $50 million to be laughed at by everybody. Oh, well. All right, but it was Apple. Again, I'm a capitalist, but me think some people have too much money. All right, but it was Apple who managed to get the Best Picture Oscar. Netflix really wanted to win it first of the streaming services, and they got close with multiple nominations over the years, but they have yet, in fact, still to win the Best Picture Oscar. However, Apple's theatrical box office has been a disaster. Oh boy. So to find themselves actually in play here like a real studio with a first place finish, that's got to make them feel vindicated, especially speaking of burning money, when they're burning money over in the streaming space. Ted Lasso used to make it all worthwhile. They don't have a Ted Lasso right now. Is it Severance? Will Severance make it all worthwhile at this year's upcoming Emmys? Or will The Pit steal their thunder? On that note, one could argue that what Apple did right this time was that they made a good movie. The other movies have good parts. I really liked Fly Me to the Moon, but that was a small film. This is a really good commercial film. But I'd also argue that Apple finally leveraged their reach, which is considerable. But before they were like, oh, let's take the high road. We're too cool for that. But not this time. In fact, over the weekend, I don't know if you had the same experience, but when I opened my Apple TV app on my iPhone, this popped up, basically saying, do you want to see F1? Do you? Huh? Maybe? Click here. In their defense, it only came up once. It didn't come up the rest every time I opened the app after that, but I thought that was pretty funny. F1 is a great movie with the audience scores to prove it, but in 2025, that don't necessarily mean much. 2025 is ruining the reputation of CinemaScore, which used to show that a movie would have legs at the box office. Not so much anymore. I think there's a small chance F1 might make its money back and might even make a little money, but I think there's a greater chance that it comes in just a little bit below its break-even point. What do you think? Where do you see it going? Now, some people felt that F1 would do incredible overseas, which has saved many a movie, especially since F1 racing is more popular overseas than it is here in the United States and North America. But at the same time, as we were saying, F1's already playing everywhere it's going to play, so there's no big pockets of money waiting for them down the line. What's really interesting is that despite Damson Idris in a large supporting role, I mean, I think he's supposed to be a lead, but he's the large supporting role. Maybe that was the mistake. And Lewis Hamilton is a producer, because, wait till you see this demographic, and well, I'll put it up right now. And Lewis Hamilton is a producer with a cameo. The Black community was the film's lowest demographic. In fact, its diversity numbers, as you can see overall, are not great. And while younger audiences did show up, which is good, the movie, despite Kerry Condon's lead role, is not just the romantic interest, but a member of the F1 team, and heartthrob Brad Pitt, who's supposed to be a real treat for the ladies, 62% male still with the audience. Did the bad publicity from Brad Pitt's recent divorce and his problems he's having with his children hurt his image with female moviegoers? Hard to tell, as Mission Impossible Final Reckoning was also 63% men, same for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but Bullet Train, 55% male. They got a couple more ladies for that, maybe because they teased Sandra Bullock. With all due respect to Condon, who is Oscar nominated and very good in this movie, maybe they should have gotten a bigger female star, and that would have helped. What do you think F1 could have done to get more moviegoers of color and women to see the film? Or, with the subject matter of F1 racing, is that just not possible? Speaking of women, M3GAN 2.0 was here to counter-program. Hey ladies, you don't want to see F1? Come see M3GAN 2.0. And it's 53, it's skew a little female, 53%, but that was the same for the first movie, interestingly. Although the diversity numbers for the franchise dropped. So did its box office, as you're about to see. I'll just tell you now, it's only a third of the first movie's opening, which is shocking. The LGBTQ crowd has been very supportive of M3GAN as well, which you've seen not only the franchise itself touch on with this, this new movie, a lot of its advertising, but also SNL has, I think, very cleverly commented on that over the past few years. But Hollywood doesn't track that demographic. In M3GAN's defense, it has pretty darn good audience scores. Its CinemaScore actually went up, I think, because it shed the people who weren't only feeling medium about it and boiled down its audience to only the people who really like it, which is a third. But that's it's just really bad. Talk about a glitch that the film did so much less box office for the sequel. Franchises are supposed to grow. So what happened? Well, I think it's pretty clear that the problem is that the franchise changed genres, going from horror to sci-fi. And they cleverly did a take on T2, right? But I think the crossover of T2 fans and pop music fans and pop music concert-going fans is smaller than this movie, than the appeal of the first movie. I think, I'm curious, did you not like the first M3GAN? That's why you didn't see the second one? Did you like the first M3GAN and decide not to see this one because it didn't look good to you? Did you see both and have a great time both times? I'm curious for you M3GAN fans what your experience has been with this franchise. I love the first movie. I loved it. But this one, I haven't even seen it because, I just, with the holiday and Superman and Jurassic World coverage coming up, I haven't had a chance. It's been a tough week for me and I have some personal stuff going on. But what I liked about the first movie was that it seemed like a doll had truly come to life. But here in the sequel, the M3GAN VFX I don't think look nearly as convincing, and her counterpart is just a regular human. She doesn't look like a doll at all. So they've lost the whole living doll angle, which I thought made the first movie so unique. But the first M3GAN also had the benefit of coming out in early January. Some flicks just aren't meant to be summer movie season, in the summer movie season. And I think M3GAN, that might be the problem here. And with these audience scores, there's a chance that M3GAN 2.0 will find an audience down the line on digital and streaming, where I suspect because of these numbers and Universal, who's always itching to throw a movie to digital, will be very quickly. I don't think I'm ever going to watch it though. Even with the strong audience scores, because to me, it just has, the changes, I don't think T2 fits with the direction they've gone in, at least. And it really bothers me that that M3GAN looks less like a doll and that the other robot is just a human. It just really, for some reason, it just really bothers me. All right, but as for last weekend's new releases, some pretty interesting developments here. Sorry, 28 years later, Defenders, and there are like a decent number of you, but not enough, as this thing plummeted 68% in its second weekend. That's almost 70. Oh my gosh, what a rejection by mainstream audiences. Not only do I not think that Danny Boyle and Alex Garland are getting that third movie, but I'm getting kind of nervous now for the sequel, already filmed by Nia DaCosta, The Bone Temple, set for January. Will that still go to theaters? I'm not so sure. I mean, maybe Sony should try to make a lucrative deal to send it straight to streaming. They have an overall deal with Netflix, which is where their movies usually end up after digital. I mean, they could just send it straight to digital to make you pay for it there, but maybe Netflix might be willing to pony up some cash to get this movie right away. We'll see what they decide to do. If I were Sony at this point, this is so bad, I'd be very nervous about that. Especially, I think you would have to, from what I've heard, well, I have my concerns about the second film as well, from a business standpoint. So we'll see what they decide to do. What would you do, again? Meanwhile, Elio fell just 49%, which is pretty darn good until you realize that Elemental fell only 38% in its second weekend. So we're not going to get an Elemental-style glow-up. Again, I feel Elio hopefully will find its audience on Disney+. I've been thinking about it, and the movie is really about not letting your passion get the better of you, right? Not escaping too far into, your fantasy worlds and not dealing with your problems. And, I think sometimes there are messages that just are too much of a bummer, and people certainly don't want to pay to hear them. And I think that might be something that happened to Elio, which is interesting. Why do you think Elio is just not doing well? And also, I'll tell you another reason, there's just too many family films in the marketplace, and they're all hurting each other. How to Train Your Dragon took another sizable drop in its third weekend. I mean, it got to the double century mark domestic, which is hard to do these days, so that's good, and it's past its break-even point, but it's in last place still for the overall franchise, despite opening the biggest. That's really disappointing. But Lilo and Stitch, a very small drop, and still its sixth weekend, and it has now reached $400 million domestic. I don't think it's going to get to a billy, which is going to annoy Disney like a paper cut. I don't think it's going to get there. But with its budget and Disney overall having a very difficult year so far, they'll take it. Also, especially because they were able to do much better than Universal's live action How to Train Your Dragon, and Disney, I think intentionally, as I said last week, I think they intentionally worked to hurt that film. And it seems like they succeeded. They sandwiched it between two of their own movies. There's too many family films in the marketplace, and two of them are from Disney. It's not like you have three studios here. All right, it'll be very interesting to see what kind of effect Jurassic World Rebirth has on this marketplace. The only major movie hitting theaters for the 4th of July holiday weekend, which is a 5-day. In some ways, like the whole, starting now to some degree. If the RT score is good, it could do some real damage, but it might find itself really fighting with F1 in this trio of family movies. What are your movie-going plans, if you have any, for the holiday weekend? Over on streaming, Sirens, produced by Margot Robbie and co-starring the future Supergirl, is still at number 1. And I'm also so happy that my other Netflix fave, Department Q, it's not as high up, but at least it managed to debut on the overall chart. Ooh, I'm so happy. I really want sequels for both of these. Still no word on sequels. Also, Jessica Biel continues to do pretty well on streaming. Candy was a solid hit for her. She sure had Elizabeth Olsen, who did it the same story a couple of months later. And this time, Biel is opposite Elizabeth Banks for Prime Video. And there's Captain America Brave New World. These aren't great. This isn't a great number, but it's still on the overall chart. And some people have pointed to this to say, hey, look, there's evidence that Disney has trained its audience to watch its content on Disney Plus instead of the theatrical space. But I don't know if that's true. Here's why. Because if that's the case, then why aren't the Disney Plus shows doing better? Like if the Marvel audience has been moved to Disney Plus, why didn't Daredevil Born Again chart once on Nielsen? So I don't think that's it. The pressure, though, is really ratcheting up, not only on Fantastic Four. Again, it just has to do better than $400 million or so, what Captain America did. That is very low bar. 2025, the year of low bars. And even more so, I think the pressure is mounting on Robert Downey Jr. and the Russo brothers. Can they really, bring Marvel back to what it was, or is it forever lost? The Western never has come back. That's scary. That's very scary. James Gunn's like, I'm about to launch a whole freaking universe over here. We'll see what happens. But look at Andor. Thanks to very low numbers on the originals chart, Andor managed to pop back up into the top 10 here, which means this is 2 weeks after it wrapped. People are still binging it, thanks to strong word of mouth. It has got to be driving Star Wars and Disney crazy. How are they going to continue with this, right? I mean, the story's over. And Tony Gilroy has said quite publicly that he doesn't want to do any more Star Wars. He did it. He's done. He had his say. He wants to move on to something else. Oh my gosh. How are you going to capitalize on this? It's $650 million. And you're just, I don't know. It's weird. I guess that's kind of like the magic of Andor, right? It kind of speaks to it, right? Tony Gilroy just lit $650 million on fire with really very little gain to the company, but all to the fans. So I think whatever Tony Gilroy does next, people are going to pay attention. So it worked out real great for him. And also Diego Luna now is really big over at Disney. He even is hosting Jimmy Kimmel, and he's doing a good job, I think. But make no mistake, that's because now he's part of the Disney empire. And Mobland, always at the bottom, has moved up to the middle of the chart. And by the way, was just renewed for season 2. Not too much going on with the movies outside of Cap 4. This chart's always pretty sad. And it's sad this week. Then on Netflix, on their own charts for just last week, Tyler Perry, despite very serious allegations and legal issues that have come out, his movie is not only still number 1 for the 3rd week in a row, but it's still a strong number 1. Why do you think that movie is still going so strong? Why do you think Tyler Perry hasn't had the same reaction from his fan base? I mean, it's different from what we usually see. And impressively, Netflix and Sony's original animated movie, K-Pop Demon Hunter, is so good, is a solid number 2. Not great. We'll see how it does if it has staying power, right? But couple this with its very strong music sales, where it's also number 2 with its album, I think we'll definitely be getting a sequel. Hooray! Animation is slow, though. I hope it doesn't take too long. Very exciting for this great film, and very exciting for the future of adult animation in the West. Oh, I mean, these are global. This is a global chart, but still, that's really exciting news. Then with shows, The Waterfront, which I also really enjoyed, is number 1, but it's a soft number 1. So soft that I don't know if this will be good enough to get a second season. We'll see. What do you think is the sweet spot for episodes in a Netflix show? Some of these are 8 to 10. I think Department Q was 10 episodes. I think that's too many episodes. And I really like Department Q. I think the sweet spot is, and The Residence was also amazing, but I think too many episodes. And Sirens, by the way, is only 6, which was actually pretty nice. I prefer 8. I would have liked 2 more episodes of Sirens. I think 6 to 8 is where it should be. Anything over than 8, I think, is asking maybe a little bit too much of people, particularly if it's a binge show. A weekly show, you can go that long, I think. Maybe you could, and some shows do. Your Friends and Neighbors, I forgot to mention it, was over on the Nielsen charts, and that's 9 episodes. But yeah, I think for Netflix shows, 8 or less. The Waterfront, I think is 10 episodes. Maybe it's 8, but it is very long. It seems that one feels like, maybe it's also the feeling. Department Q didn't feel long, but The Residence and The Waterfront did feel long to me, even though I loved all 3 shows. All right, so I don't think Waterfront's going to get a second season if this is the way it continues. And again, we're waiting to hear about Department Q and Sirens. Then, despite the boost from his son's recent success on The White Lotus, they even sat down together recently for Variety. Arnold Schwarzenegger promoted the heck out of Fubar Season 2. He did a lot of YouTube videos. But it didn't matter. He couldn't get anybody to watch this thing. This is its 2nd week on the charts, and it's been on the bottom for both. Even Carrie-Anne Moss joining the show didn't help, but we've been fooled by that before. As for digital movies, looking at Apple's top 10, Sinners is still number 1 on a chart with a lot of the same movies from last week. Interestingly, though, people are still watching 28 Days Later, even if they're not watching the latest film. While recent small releases The Last Rodeo, Friendship, and Fight or Flight are finding audiences on digital, but not big audiences. They're not huge, but they're in the top 10. So yes, it's a big holiday weekend, a big holiday week here in the United States. What does it feel like for the rest of you when there are these well, I think this is the biggest one, but it's such a regionally specific holiday, but that has such a big effect on the entertainment schedule. I mean, because for you still have to go to work and stuff, and they're dropping all this content. All right, so Universal has had a lock on 4th of July for years now. And this year, their gift to the world is Jurassic World Rebirth. We'll see if audiences return it or enjoy it. And they have no IMAX screens. We'll see what that does to the box office and also the image of the film, how audiences feel. They're like, maybe I'll see these dinos on an IMAX. And Brad Pitt says, no. So we'll see. But while there's only one new movie in theaters, a ton of movies are trying to catch your attention at home or on the go. There's a lot of movies coming out this weekend. So, all right, on Tuesday, on digital, you've got Thunderbolts, Ballerina already. That's a great movie. You should watch it. Bring Her Back. And after Wolf's success, Apple has kept their movies specifically to their streaming service. You had to be a subscriber to get access to them. But they're experimenting and trying to get some of their money back by allowing anyone to rent or purchase them. And the next one they're doing is The Instigators this Tuesday. Liam Neeson, by the way, also has a sequel to his movie Ice Road going straight to digital. Liam Neeson, don't get people too tired of you before Naked Gun comes out. And streaming has a bunch of new movies too. These mostly drop on Wednesday. Netflix has The Old Guard 2. Prime Video has, I guess maybe they're hoping to catch you while you travel, some of you, right? Prime Video has Heads of State. That's a pretty good pairing, John Cena and Idris Elba. I'm kind of tempted to watch that one. I don't have time. But that's the one the other ones I'm like, but that one I'm like, oh, I kind of want to watch that. I kind of like John Cena. All right, and I really like Idris Elba, obviously. I've loved Hijack. And Paramount Plus has a new Dora the Explorer movie with an all-new cast. We'll see if that does well with families. Then with shows, speaking of serious legal problems and allegations against creatives, Neil Gaiman's The Sandman is moving forward. He's not really affiliated with any of this content anymore, but, it's still very much is in his shadow. What's now his shadow. This is season 2, but only part 1. But it's a decent number of episodes. That drops on Thursday on Netflix. Are you still going to watch Sandman, or has the Neil Gaiman stuff made it too much for you? While on Friday, Netflix will try to move in on Discovery's Shark Week, which has been extremely lucrative for Discovery. That's Zazzy's territory, right? And, Shark Week is at the end of July. But this 4th of July, Netflix is dropping their own shark reality show called All the Sharks, which I think is a pretty funny title. And that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And place your bets on Jurassic World Rebirth versus F1. Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.